With all the current news about refugees driven by conflict, hardship, or climate change, it's only timely to have the makings of a refugee orchestra. But as it turns out, in classical music, refugee performers and composers are practically a tradition, with many of them finding welcome and support here in Boston. To talk about the first concert here by the Refugee Orchestra Project is the conductor, Lidiya Yankovskaya. Thank you very much for being with us, Lidiya.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're from Russia, sort of a refugee artist. Talk about what that was like for you.
Yeah, I grew up in St. Petersburg during the Reconstruction in the 90s, and my family immigrated to the States. We came as refugees with the help of HIAS, with the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. In the 90s in Russia in particular, things were falling apart economically, and also anti-Semitism was rampant. I still remember very vividly as a child one of the main squares in St. Petersburg. Every week there would be a fascist demonstration in the middle of the square, flying swastikas, handing out pamphlets that would say, "Kill all the Jews, they're causing all of our economic problems." And as a child, not quite understanding this and asking my mother about this every week as I went to my chorus rehearsals, passing by this.
Well, talk about some of the people who are in this orchestra, because, I mean, there could be some from Russia or Ukraine, but I imagine a mix of other places, too.
Yeah, we have people from a variety of places and backgrounds. We also have some individuals whose parents were refugees or who are close relatives of refugees. But we're excited to feature a few soloists, including Lubana Alkantar, who is based in Washington, D.C., who's a recent transplant to the United States from Syria. She is a classically trained singer, but also sings traditional Syrian music, and we're thrilled that she will do some of both at this performance. We also have a very talented young performer who's a senior in high school at the moment, Sammy Andonian, who's a fantastic prodigy violinist whose family is Armenian, who will be performing some music with us. We also have, of course, some people from Ukraine and Russia, from other parts of the world, who will be performing in the chorus and the orchestra. And additionally, we're excited, of course, to feature some music by composers who were themselves refugees to this country.
Yeah, I know certainly one of them was, at least has a lot of association with the Boston area, Alan Hovanes.
Yes, who's an Armenian composer, very well known within the Armenian community, not as well known as he should be within the classical music world at large. And Sammy, in addition to playing a movement from a Brahms concerto, which was in his repertoire, will be playing a solo work by Hovanes, which we're thrilled to have him perform.
And among the other refugee composers, Kurt Weill, who has a familiar name in America.
Exactly, Kurt Weill. We're also performing works by Irving Berlin. Many people don't know that even God Bless America, which we see as such an American standard and which is performed so commonly, was written by Irving Berlin, who was not born in this country and who came here as a refugee to escape pogroms in Eastern Europe.
And what about the rest of the program?
We have a mix of things really spanning a wide range. As I mentioned, some works by Irving Berlin. We also have a set of arias that are not by refugee composers, but that are on the theme of wandering or finding belonging. One will be sung by Lubana Alkantar, the Syrian singer. We are also excited to have Barbara Quintiliani, who is a local, very well-known operatic singer, joining us for this concert. Barbara is not herself a refugee, but is very interested in our cause and had several works in her repertoire that were appropriate, and she will be performing as well. And additionally, actually, we have a new addition to the program. We'll be doing some excerpts from Rachmaninoff's Aleko. Rachmaninoff also came to this country right after the Russian Revolution.
Exactly, right.
And Aleko is a wonderful opera, as you know, that's rarely performed. Also surrounds the theme of the opera is surrounding Roma life, and of course the Roma are people who have often been forced
to call them the
be
gypsies.
refugees.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly right.
So we're very excited to also present excerpts from that opera.
Now, I know that community orchestras they tend to be diverse, but this is diversity raised to another level. I mean, how do you make it stick together?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we're very lucky. I think something like this is only possible in a city like Boston. There are so many spectacular musicians here, both professional musicians and musicians who may play as a hobby but are still at a very, very high level. And so I was fortunate to find out that so many people were very excited by this project And we have a very large number of professional singers who are singing in the chorus, instrumentalists who will be joining us, as well as people who play in local community orchestras who have a tie to this cause and believe in what we're doing.
How did the idea get started for this?
A very good question. When the Syrian refugee crisis first happened in Europe, I was actually traveling in Europe at the time, and in Europe in particular, I saw the enormous amount of backlash. I was in Austria when, you may remember last summer, there was an incident where a bus full of refugees who were trying to escape into Austria were left locked in this bus compartment and died, which was a horrible story. And I was very moved and really upset by everything that was happening and the number of people that were displaced and coming back to the States. In Europe, of course, this is all much more palpable because people are coming right across the border by the thousands. In the States, we're not seeing quite the same thing. But when I came back to the US from that trip, I realized just how much sentiment and resentment there is towards refugees coming to this country. There were many political leaders who came out and said that they do not want any refugees coming to their cities and towns. And that was especially surprising to me, given how, from in my perspective, how strict actually the American immigration policy is. And we've taken fewer immigrants in recent years than we have ever before. And I realized furthermore that many of my close friends and contacts and people I work with regularly had no idea that I myself came to this country as a refugee, and that many others whom they know came to this country as refugees. I think most of us tend to not want to speak about that experience. We came because we were escaping something and we put it behind us. And generally, that's not something that people advertise. And so I decided that it was important to showcase just what a contribution refugee artists make to this country, to our culture, to our society, to our history. Again, going back to the Surfing Berlin piece or so many other classic works that have shaped the way music is performed today, and so many individuals that have been so influential. So I decided I got this idea and I thought about putting something together with a few friends of mine, and I wrote about it, posted about it on Facebook, as one does in today's world, and the response was overwhelming. Just hundreds of people emailed me and messaged me and contacted me saying that they wanted to be part of this. And so we decided to go forward with it. I'm very fortunate to have a very strong team working on the administrative side of this, helping me put it together. Some really experienced people who are really good at what they do and helping to spread the word and handle all the logistical challenges.
How do you think they feel about their handling of the identity as refugees? Because there have been all these great composers who came here as refugees, but they just did their work and it was kind of low profile.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've got this whole group of people and they're just wearing it on their sleeve. I mean, is there some pride with this, maybe?
I think it's pride. I think there is some hesitation. I mean, I can even say for myself, nobody wants to be labeled as a refugee or an immigrant or as anything really in particular. You want to be out there, going out there as a musician, as a performer, and sharing what you do best, and for that to be the focus. But I think I decided that given today's climate, it was very important for people to realize that we are part of this community, that we are as American, many of us, as anyone else going down the street. Often you can't tell where a refugee came from or who is a refugee or who is not, and not that it matters if you can tell or not.
Well, we should mention what also matters here is the music, so if people want some details, and we should get a little bit of an idea about the time and place.
Yes, the performance is on May 10th at First Church in Cambridge on Garden Street in the evening at 8 p.m. And the performance is free and open to the public. We encourage anyone who is able to come and attend to spread the word and bring their friends. We do encourage anyone who attends to give money towards refugee efforts, but that is by no means a requirement. It's completely free and open. And you have a place people can check out, some more information? Yes, you can learn more about the project at our website, www.refugeeorchestraproject.org, refugeeorchestraproject.org. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Chris. Lidiya Yankovskaya.